Hello and welcome back to the Let's Talk Horse Business podcast. And on today's show, I'm really excited to bring to you a deep dive into horse welfare issues, the graft that goes on behind the scenes in the equestrian industry, and some of the really key highlights in this person's journey. Today we're going to be speaking to Rebecca Page. Fascinating journey from eventing to para dressage rider. Please sit back and enjoy the show. Rebecca, thank you for joining me today.
Very welcome.
So, just for the audience, could you let them know who you are?
So my name is Rebecca Page. I am from Somersham and I am a freelance dressage rider. Got a base at home with a mixture of clients' horses and my own horses. And I basically freelance ride, go around, bit of teaching, helping people train their horses, compete their horses. Basically do anything that needs to be done to make money and survive in this industry.
No, I think we can all relate to that. And what are you doing now yourself?
Currently, I am focusing on competing. We've got some exciting things in the pipeline, some para things coming up, linked to a previous injury, but mainly focusing on my competing training, trying to get the horses leveling up. We've got one event horse who's not evented by myself, but he is at home, so I'm training him, fitness work with him, and he is aiming for an international in a couple of months' time.
Okay. I think it's fair to say you've had quite the equestrian career, and you very much started out in the eventing space initially. So just tell us a bit about that. Yeah,
so I started off riding sort of when I was 4 years old. Mum evented, did all the pony club eventing, and probably decided at age 12 that I was going to go to Burghley, and that was my dream and that was my goal. And I think naive 12-year-old me thought that it'd be a really easy thing to do and easy thing to achieve, and that everyone goes to Burghley and that's the normal thing. Obviously not the case. No. As I sort of did more eventing and realised what the sport was really about, it's difficult, it's hard. But anyway, I built up a really good client base with some really nice event horses. I was very lucky to take on some more experienced horses, which were teaching me as well as, going and progressing. And then 4 years ago, I had a fall at a penultimate fence cross country and shattered both my ankles, which I guess at the time I kind of thought, broken ankles, they'll fix, broken bone. 2 weeks in Nottingham Hospital, extensive surgery, particularly on the left one. Actually, it was career changing. At the time, the surgeon did say, you won't ride again. And I was a bit like, well, you don't know me, I will ride again. In what capacity, I don't know, but I will. I did return a little bit to eventing post-injury. But pain did kind of take over.
Yes.
Confidence, I won't lie, took a hit.
Yeah.
I did have a little bit of a break. I didn't have the horsepower. And I think after kind of not jumping, not eventing for 6 months, confidence plummeted even more. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this. It's hard enough doing it when you want to do it. But when there's something in the back of your mind saying, I don't want to do this, it becomes really hard. Yeah. So that's when I made the move to dressage and fully focused on dressage.
It's brought you to today, which is really you're heading in the dressage space.
Yes.
The para dressage space.
Yes.
Very early days for you, but how are you finding that?
Really good. Yeah, the para team, the FEI team have all been great. So I had my ankle fused at the end of last year. I had bone-on-bone arthritis and it was just becoming unmanageable pain. So I chose to have it fused after I kind of borderline remember having an argument with the surgeon at the time of the break saying, I'm not having my ankle fused. Like, I'm never doing that, because you think, oh my goodness, like a whole joint fused, and it's just not something I wanted to do. And I knew of a lot of people that had ankle fusions a long time ago. So it's obviously progressed a lot since then. But they like physically couldn't ride. And I was like, that's not an option for me. Yeah. It's just not.
No.
But yeah, I had my ankle fused at the back end of last year. And a lot of people had said to me, are you going to go down the para route? Are you going to go down the para route? And I was a little bit unsure, a little bit on the fence. But then I was like, do you know what? Something good has got to come of the last 4 years. And I think anyone who knows me will kind of be like, well, you know, she just gets on with it. She just gets on with it. Day in, day out was pain. But you get to a point where living with pain just becomes normal.
Right.
So, and you know, when you've got a yard of 6 horses and no help, someone's got to get up and feed them.
Yes.
And for that, I'm so grateful because they always gave me a purpose to get up and get going and whatever, no matter what the pain level was.
Yeah.
But yes, it ended in fusion. So in June, I will be 6 months post-op, and then I can send all my application stuff off to the classification team. They have already been in touch with me and said I'm 100% eligible for classification.
Good news.
They just wanted to wait till I was 6 months post surgery, which will be June.
Brilliant.
Then I hope to be classified and aim for LA.
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, it's your oyster at that point.
Why not?
Yeah. No, fair enough. I think, you know, the point of everything there is actually we all go through tough times, some worse than others, very different things, but there's always another direction or another something, and not to give up. I think.
And I am a person, you know, glass half full, and I will always make the most of whatever I can. I'm always very positive, and you know, people were saying to me, will you be able to ride with an ankle fusion? And I was a little bit like, well, I'll just take my stirrups away. You know, there's always where there's a will, there's a way.
Yes.
And there are a few horses that I do have to ride without stirrups. It depends on their movement, where they put their power. But, you know, in terms of just trotting around the arena, fine. The moment I start to ask for any sort of lateral work, I just lose the left stirrup.
Okay.
So I was like, you know what the answer is to that? We'll just take them
away. Take them away, yes.
Don't need stirrups.
I think you've got that through, haven't you?
Yes, so I've got a dispensation with BD to ride without stirrups if required. And I don't need to do it on all horses.
No.
If they're not big movers, if they're, you know, smaller horses. But the big horses with the big movement, especially in the trot, stirrups got to go. Because the moment I ask for any lateral work, I can't put my heel down. I can't get that support and that sort of...
The suspension as well, isn't it?
Exactly. And especially in the sitting trot, it just doesn't work, so they would just take them away.
Yeah, fair enough. And is that something which, I don't know if you've spoken to physios and things, can you improve that, or is it that's it?
That's it. The ankle joint is fused.
Yeah.
There is no movement. So yeah, I can have physio to keep, you know, fluid down within the joint. I can have physio to try and help keep my calf muscle firing and stimulating.
Yes.
But I can't improve the range.
Right.
Within time, my foot bones and toe bones will begin to move more and compensate for me.
Okay.
Which will lead to more arthritis. But no, there is nothing really. I guess learning. I guess I will learn to a degree to adapt and ride slightly differently.
Yes.
But then that comes with more pelvis issues and such and whatever.
There was a trade-off.
Exactly. There is always a trade-off. But I don't have any regrets. And at the moment, we're pushing forwards with what we've got.
Yeah, of course you are. Yeah. And I think it's also a testament to your hard work and willingness to keep going.
Yeah.
Not least because of the injuries you've had, but actually how hard it is in equestrian business anyway to keep going. And you're funding yourself through... Yep. In fact, tell us about that. How are you funding this journey?
Bank of Mum? No, she is very supportive. She's very supportive, and like I wouldn't be where I am without her help. I don't do it fully alone. She does help me. But the way there's one way to put it. I graft. I graft. You know, I get up. My day starts at 4 a.m. and it finishes when it finishes. I do have some help at home, not as much as I possibly need with what I've got. I've probably got enough horses and enough ridden horses at home to require a full-time member of staff.
Okay.
But the difference is if I start employing someone full-time to do my horses, any profit I take then goes on paying them. And to be honest, from a really selfish point of view, I'd rather just do it myself.
Yeah, of course. But I guess what we're missing there is these aren't all your horses, so they're actually bringing you an income.
They are bringing me an income, yeah. And then that income gets spent on my own horses.
Yes.
That is I think for me to be able to make money from my yard, it would have to be filled with all paying horses.
Yes.
Which it's not. I've got 3 of my own at the moment and 3 paying.
Okay.
And then whatever I kind of make on the paying customers goes on feed for my horses, farrier for my horses, lessons, competition entries. The sport's become so expensive. British eventing in particular is quite expensive. We're aiming shrimp for a 2-star in June. It's going to be best part of £500 just to enter. Yeah. Let alone your fuel to get there, 4.5-hour journey in an old lorry. Yeah. So whatever you're kind of making, you're throwing straight back at the horses. And it's a way of life, and that is how it is. And I think for any equestrian, you don't do it necessarily to make money. You do it because you enjoy doing it. And that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Do you think it's right that that's the way it is?
Yes and no, to a degree. Lots of people argue that horses are a luxury. Is there a reason why anything to do with a horse is so expensive? No. For example, you could buy something off Amazon that's $5.99. You go to a horse shop and it's the exact same thing and it's $25.99. Yes. There is no reason why things linked to horses are expensive, but then horses are seen as an elite luxury item. Growing up at school, oh, you must be rich, you've got horses. No, I'm poor because I've got horses. So I is it right? No. Is it becoming an elite sport? Yes.
No, I totally agree.
I wouldn't be able to do what I do without the support of owners.
Yes, okay.
If it was just my horses that I was having to pay for all of them to enter competitions and ride and do, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Okay, but if general public would listen to this and say, well, in which case you just have to get a proper job and then just do your horses in your spare time, what would you say to them?
Horses aren't a spare time thing. They consume you. It's like, I describe horses as a toxic relationship.
Okay.
You need them to survive, but they are the main cause of your stress and money issues. And
I think I saw a quote somewhere that, or I think it was a picture of a horse, and it was like, my 2 jobs are to 1, stress the owner out.
Oh yes,
2,
and that is true. They have a way of knowing as soon as you're on the straight and narrow with money, they're like, oh, I know, I will try and kill myself in the field. Yes. And then you have to pay $1,000 to fix me. Yeah. I mean, for me, getting a proper job, well, they say, they say, if you love your job, you never work a day in your life.
Exactly.
And for me, that is it. I cannot see myself doing anything different. No. And I will continue to do what I do, keeping my head above water. Yeah, I am. Is it hard? Yeah, but I love it. And for me, it's just not an option. You just can't. No. You can't do horses to the level that I do horses and have another job. It's just not possible. No. Because it is a 24-hour stint, Laying in bed, you hear a horse bang and you're like, I've got to go check that. You never switch off. You never switch off from it. No. But yeah.
I think what's just come to mind, because I mentioned about the public. Yeah. And I've had many conversations on here about welfare of horses. And the way the public view it. Yeah. Especially if they're not equestrian related. Yeah. Have you got any thoughts on that? Because it's a big thing out there at the moment.
Big controversial thing, yeah. So for me, I feel like our equestrian platforms are slightly going against us equestrians to please the uneducated.
Mm-hmm.
And by uneducated, I mean the public that don't understand the sport, that don't understand competition horses. For example, there's a new rule come in about noseband tightness. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not an advocate for anything that is too tight. It doesn't really affect me because my horses don't have tight nosebands.
Yes.
But for me, this rule doesn't just apply to dressage. It applies to all three phases of an FEI eventing event. So you cross country and your dressage. Now, you have got athletes at their absolute peak fitness, some of which love their jobs a little bit too much and become quite a handful to deal with. I know of a rider who uses a grackle noseband with a Waterford snaffle, so a kind bit. But this horse is quite strong, and she uses the noseband as her control.
Okay.
Now this rule has come in. What does she do?
That's a very good point.
It almost becomes a safety issue for us riders. We are working with something with its own mind. It's strong. It's powerful. There is an element of we have got to have some control. And that doesn't mean that we're being horrible. It doesn't mean that we're, being nasty, but we have got to be able to keep a little bit of control.
Yes.
And I just feel like instead of just saying, well, you can't use this and you can't use that and this is banned and that is banned, actually, we should be educating the public as to why we have to do this, why we have to do that. The blood rule. No one likes to see blood on a horse. But little things like I think someone was eliminated last year because a horsefly, it was a grey horse, I think, horsefly had bitten the horse. There was blood on its shoulder, let's say. Instantly eliminated.
Right.
Horse bites its tongue in a dressage test. We've all bitten our tongues. Just because you've bitten your tongue, does that not mean you can carry on with your day?
Absolutely.
I feel like if blood is spotted on a horse, it should be allowed to continue its test. Then it's taken to the ground jury. The ground jury assess, now, is this actually a welfare issue? Or is this something really simple? And let's say a horse has bitten its tongue and it's minute. Why can't we take a video of that and put that out there and say, look, this is what's happened. Yes, there is blood, but actually this horse is fine. This horse can compete tomorrow.
Yes.
The same with an overreach. A horse can overreach in the field.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that it's lame and its leg's going to fall off and it can't continue. I just feel like instead of, because to the public, blood eliminated.
Yes.
Well, that looks bad.
Yes.
Because why is there blood? Why have they been eliminated because of blood? Whereas actually, we should be using our social media platforms, FEI, BE, BD, BS, to actually go, okay, well, there is blood on this horse, but this horse is actually fine. It's not a welfare issue.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are cases where it is a welfare issue, and that's fine. That needs to then be taken control of and dealt with appropriately.
Yeah.
But there are so many issues where actually someone's unfairly eliminated. You get a horse to 5-star and it bites its tongue in the dressage. And you think that all that work to get there because it's nicked its tongue in the dressage or because a fly's bitten it and they're instantly eliminated.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's got to be some change, and it can't just be blood eliminated because to the public that doesn't look great. We've got to start explaining and educating people. I could cut myself right now, blood, but that doesn't mean that I've gone out of my way to injure myself. Do you see what I mean?
No. Or that someone else has
caused harm to you. Or that someone else has caused harm to me. Exactly. We all do things that are silly and that hurt, but that doesn't mean we can't carry on with our day. And I just feel like we should be educating, and also as a sort of equestrian community, if I'm being really honest, I'm fed up with people pulling each other apart.
Oh my God, yeah.
I feel like we should be uniting and standing together, and actually, we all try and do our best. Well, the majority of us try and do our best by our horses.
Yes.
Sometimes our best isn't good enough, and it's hard, but we all try and do our best. And actually, as an equestrian community, instead of heading to social media to pull someone apart because their horse has gone lame in a dressage test, like, we should be uniting and actually showing the public the love that we have for our horses, not putting it out there for someone else to pull apart.
Absolutely. Social media has become, there's a few particular channels which I won't mention, but they have
we
got,
can all guess.
but they have got so aggressive towards.
And what I don't understand about these channels is, so as of recent, a horse was eliminated at an international because it was lame.
Right.
Yes, the horse was lame. You could see in the video it was lame. You can't deny that. But the judges eliminated her. You know, she wasn't allowed to continue her test. They pulled her up. She was eliminated.
Yeah.
So then why do we then need to get hold of that video and put it all over Facebook and slate this and slate that when actually the judges have done the right thing?
Yeah.
For the welfare of the horse. So why is that now an issue? Why does that need to be made public? And that's where I struggle, because I feel like as the equestrian community, actually the right thing's been done. So why does that now have to be put out there for someone else to pull apart?
Absolutely. But do you think it's because, to the uneducated, as you put it, we are elites and they don't like I'm not saying that we are, but that's what the way they think.
That is how it is viewed, yeah.
And so they revel in attacking us for that reason.
Yes, probably. But then that then comes back to, we need to stand together.
Yeah.
Instead of putting that video out there for other equestrians to attack and comment on, we should be standing by that person and defending them. You know, obviously, if this horse was allowed to continue through its test, then absolutely something needs to be said. But it wasn't. It was pulled up. It was eliminated. Yeah. So there is no welfare issue there.
Absolutely.
The right thing was done by the horse at that particular moment in time.
Yeah.
So then why then is another equestrian getting hold of that video, putting it out there, and letting everybody pull this person apart? At the end of the day, that person is still a human. And that is where I think the industry has become quite toxic. We are not stood together at this moment.
I agree. Do you think, for those other people doing this publicising, as we're discussing, do it because of they're gaining monetarily, and that's why
they've got to be?
Yeah,
they've got to be, because for someone to be that nasty,
so
and
how
spend their
does
day trying to find dirt on every rider, they have got to be.
So therein lies a question: how do we tackle that? Because even if we all stood together, we're not going to stop that.
No, we're not. So
is there another body, organisation, company, government that should be taking control of it?
I personally, obviously this is very personal, I personally think if we're talking about one particular channel that has attacked our GB riders, I really do think the FEI need to step in. It is bullying. It is bullying. And I think, we're all told don't engage, but that doesn't change how the person who's being attacked feels just because, you're not allowed to make comment or you're not allowed to whatever. No, I think the FEI, be whoever it is involved with in whatever federation they're registered with, they need to step in, because it's doing our sport no good to the public.
It's doing it an injustice, because it's not like that.
But we can know, and it's not. And there is so much good in the equestrian sport. But it seems to be at the moment that all everyone can focus on is the bad, because that's what's put out there.
Yeah.
So for me personally, I think the FEI need to start stepping in. They're so quick to step in when it's other issues. But this is bullying, and it's our riders that are supposed to be protected, but they don't.
No.
They sit quiet.
Very valid point. And I think, coming slightly away from that, but on a similar wavelength, I did an episode recently about, I think it was a Dutch body was going to start banning particular implements that we use with horses. And I didn't agree with that, because it's not the implement or the tool that is the problem.
Any tool in the wrong hands can be a welfare issue. Yeah.
They were talking about banning certain spurs, certain
God, if
bits.
they ban spurs, I won't get some horses to trot.
Well, yeah. So it is that, You could ban all the tools in the book, but it doesn't going to stop someone coming at the horse with a hammer or a fist.
No.
It's all about the person.
It's the person.
And it's not even about the horse. They could come at a human with a hammer or a fist. They could, it's not about, I know that we're talking horses here, but I think people get hung up on a whip, which is used merely to control a 600 kilo horse, done in the right way.
And also, a schooling whip is an aid. It's not a tool to beat a horse up. That's not the idea of it. Yes, it encourages them to go forwards. But for example, I might be having a lesson and I want a little bit more push from the hind leg. Well, my leg's not going to do that because my leg's nowhere near the horse's hind leg. So I'll carry a schooling whip and I'll give a little tickle. And that's not to say you've done wrong. That's to say I just want a little bit more from this leg. Yeah. And my horses know that that's what it means. So they're not stressed by it. They're not upset by it. Yeah. A little tickle and they're like, oh, you want more there? And I'm like, yeah, I want more there. So they'll give me more there. But that's how they're trained. That's how they know. But yeah, all these things, spurs, whips, they're supposed to be an add-on for our aids, not a bad thing, not necessarily to always discipline them. Yeah. But at the end of the day, they are horses. They're 600-pound animals. They are stronger than us. And there are cases where, don't do that. That's not acceptable. But if we didn't do that, they would be dangerous. Yes. They would be dangerous.
And we even have to do it to our own families, kids, whatever. It's not like it's not just horses we're talking about here, really. We all have to set our own boundaries, and we do that in different ways. If I was setting boundaries with a child that's only, small, it's a very different way of telling them the one thing than telling a 600-pound horse.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying beat them up. That's
no, of course
absolutely not what we do. Because actually, I mean, if I did that to my horses, they'd probably curl up in a ball and die and be like, she hates us. But the point is they've got to want to work with us. Yeah. And, even beating them up, doing whatever, if they don't want to do something, they're not going to do it.
Exactly.
So, yeah, banning, going back to what you were saying, you can ban whips, you can ban spurs, you can, but it is the particular individual, not necessarily the aids that they have.
Or the whole industry.
Yeah. And I also, what I feel quite strongly about is, okay, so 2 people have been caught being abusive or whatever with a whip. So let's punish the whole equestrian community. No, do something about that one person.
Absolutely.
Because actually, again, it goes back to a little bit for me, safety. Safety for riders, safety for grooms, safety for, people that are dealing with horses. There has got to be an element of they've got to be safe. And yeah, they do have to a degree, stay a little bit in their box because they are big animals. But there are ways that you can do that without welfare coming into it.
Let's move over to the business side of things.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've discussed that you graft.
Yeah.
We've discussed it's incredibly hard. Yes. I'm sure everyone relates to all of that.
Yeah.
What are some of your biggest struggles when trying to make your business work at the moment?
Not spending money unnecessarily. No. So for me, actually, is the ever increasing price of things. Okay. So you can budget and you can make a spreadsheet and you can plan for your, okay, well, income is going to be this, whatever. But then prices will go up. And it seems to be that everything is inflating faster than I can keep up with at the moment, which is a struggle. Yeah. But the biggest, I think, struggle for me is I'm freelance, I'm self-employed, and I work with an animal. So one week I might have 10 horses for my clients that I'll go off and ride. But the next week I could have 3 because one might lose a shoe and the farrier might not be coming for 2 weeks. One might get injured and be out for 6 months. Yeah. So income isn't always guaranteed. Yes. You could have a week where you're laughing and you've made £800 profit, but that could disappear in a blink.
Yeah.
Because you're working with something that does have a mind of its own and can do things that implements your income.
Yeah.
So that for me is one of the hardest things about having my business as it is, because I'm self-employed. If I don't work, I don't make the money.
Yes.
But my work depends on the horse. An owner might be ill, might not be there to get the horse in or whatever. There are so many factors when it comes to working with horses that makes it very difficult to be able to pin your hopes on money coming in. You might have a horse come in on sales livery. Great, you're going to take 15% of that sale price, and let's say that horse is 50 grand, and you're going to take whatever your cut is. But then that you might be pinning your hopes on that money.
Yeah.
But then that horse fails the vet.
Yes.
So there are so many things that implement your cash flow with horses.
Yeah.
And that is one of the hardest things, is being able to work out what income you're going to get, because it can change within a blink of an eye.
Yeah. And there's so many factors that are outside of your,
exactly,
which is what you're saying.
My car might not start. I have to drive to clients to ride their horses. My car might not start. So then I can't get to work, but then I've got to then pay to have the car fixed.
Yeah.
So there's just so many uncontrollable factors with working with horses that make it very hard to, solidly say, yeah, this month I'm going to make a profit and this month I'm going to be able to have savings.
Yeah.
Because, horses do stupid things and break. And you can literally, I have had it. I've had 1 week where I have been running around like a blue ass fly trying to ride this, ride that, because I've got so many horses to ride for clients away. And that's great. And I love it. And it's brilliant. And I do think of going off to ride my clients' horses not as work. I go to ride them because I want to ride them and I want to do it. But you can have weeks where you've got so many horses to ride and you're like, great, this is a really good week for income. And then honestly, the next week you could have 3. So it's so up and down, because you haven't got that, solid.
Not a regular.
It's not a regular
guaranteed.
way. You're not guaranteed. I'm not going to an office, and regardless of what I do Monday to Friday, I'm not being paid a set wage each week. I'm paid for what I do and what I ride, and if I can't ride, I'm not paid. I mean, in an ideal world, in 10 years' time or whatever, I'd love to have all my horses at one base.
Yeah.
And I mean, I never kind of call it and say, right, I'm not riding, because like I say, I love going to ride my clients' horses.
Yes.
But from my stress levels and my ease, it would be amazing to have them all under one roof and just do them all at home.
Do you think, given today's market, you'd be able to charge the right money to make that work?
It'd be too expensive. It would be too expensive.
This is a common conversation that I have.
So I recently helped someone set up their livery yard again. And we sat down with a spreadsheet and worked out costs of what we would need to charge to make it viable. So we're talking everything: electricity, water, paying staff, hay, feed, shavings, belling, blah, blah, blah. We sat down and worked out. And realistically, to even, make a little bit of profit, so make it worthwhile doing, you're looking full livery, $250 a week.
Right, okay, yeah.
I wouldn't be able to afford that.
No.
But that is, and even I, like, when I saw the figures, I was like, that's really steep. Like, who's going to pay that? But actually, realistically, it's what you need to charge. And that's not including riding. Right. So then if you're going to add my riding on top, just let's say have a horse on schooling livery, competition livery, you're looking at plus £300 a week. Yeah. Which is absurd, really.
Yeah,
I personally wouldn't be able to afford to do that.
No. And this is, again, where it then falls back to our earlier conversation about it becoming an elitist sport. Yeah. Because really it's only the most wealthy people that can actually afford things like full livery. Yeah. And then there's a gap where you've got these DIY people who want to do it themselves and part liveries. But equally, there's a growing trend that people don't want that kind of clientele as well.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Because then I'm a little bit the same. I don't really do liveries as such on my yard. I'll have competition liveries. I'll have schooling liveries. I'll have liveries that are within my control, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I do have one full livery who is absolutely brilliant. Godsend. They are brilliant. But they're not all like that. And for me, it would be things like and I think a lot of equestrian people that do it professionally are, I'm so set in my routine and my ways, and my other half will say it's my way or no way, but he's probably not wrong. For me, my yard's done normally by 7:30 in the morning.
Wow.
Because then that's when I go off to ride, because then I like to get back so I can ride my own horses.
Yes.
My yard's done by 7:30.
Mm.
If I, let's say, had a DIY,
yeah,
and I came home at lunchtime and the stable still wasn't mucked out, that would annoy me.
Yeah.
And I think, especially, I think it's more so when you have someone living on site. If that place is someone's home, you don't want to walk down and it be a mess.
Yes.
Which obviously you can't control with DIY.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas full, park to a degree assisted, you still have control of certain things that happen on the yard.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, it might just be me that annoys, but it annoys me.
Sure.
So, which is why I think like DIY is like, the yard I've just helped set up, we don't do DIY. And I know it is for that reason, because it's this person's home.
Yeah.
And, you come down and there's a row of 5 stables that aren't mucked out. And then there's also things like, well, if you've got a yard that's got DIY and full, the full livery horses might be out by 8 a.m. But then you might have one DIY horse that's still in at 9 o'clock. Well, then that becomes a welfare issue, doesn't it? Because that horse is going to be going round and round and round its box because all its mates have gone out to the field.
Yes, yes.
So then that becomes a welfare issue. So then the staff normally end up feeling sorry for it and turning it out, but then that defeats the object of DIY.
Absolutely.
So then, you then have things start falling through the gaps. And for me, you either have a DIY yard and it's all DIY, which I find is normally the yards where people don't live on site.
Okay.
Because you can walk off the yard and go home and be like, it doesn't matter if it's a mess because I haven't got to see it.
Yes, yes.
Whereas I find a lot of people that live on site don't have DIY.
It's a good observation, actually.
Because also, do you want people rocking up at 8 o'clock at night?
No.
At your home?
Exactly.
No. But if they're DIY, you can't control that. The horse needs doing, the horse needs doing.
Yeah, yeah.
They might not finish work until 7:30, and that's not their fault.
No.
But do you want someone then coming up at 8 o'clock in the evening when you've put all your horses to bed?
Yeah, yeah.
And I realise that someone who's not horsey listening to this is going to think I'm insane because I'm talking about putting horses to bed. But like, you know what I mean? The horses have their routine, and they are massive routine animals.
Yeah, yeah. They love a routine. And that's why I do know a couple of yards which keep it to DIY or part, but always that they are in control of when it goes out, when it comes in, when it's fed, and then the other bits are, as and when. But I do see that, but I'm also very aware that particularly in my area, we've probably lost well over 50 or 60 boxes in the past year in terms of shutting down yards. So it just makes me wonder where all those people are going, because I imagine a lot of those were DIY.
Yeah.
So that was just an interesting. I'm just trying to work out where they've all gone, to be honest. And actually, full's not that, like you say, it's not that affordable. If that's $250 at the yard you were helping, I'm sure other people are going to be.
Well, the yard that I've just helped kind of set up, we've had a lot of liveries move from a yard that's recently shut down.
Okay.
And I'm not going to give out exact costs, but when I told them our prices, I was told that their full livery was less than our assisted livery.
Right.
And then they wonder why the yard's shutting down.
Yes. Well, there is that. Because
it's not like the prices that they gave me were almost criminal. Like, if I'm being honest, I wouldn't get out of bed for that.
No,
I probably would, but
yeah,
I wouldn't want to.
No, I know what you mean. I think that very much relates with the transport business.
Yeah.
Everyone moans about prices.
Everyone wants a service for nothing.
But then it's the guys which are smaller, run their own box at their lovely prices, and then in a couple of years won't be seen again. So it is literally, whilst we look expensive, what we're actually doing is we're running a business. We're not doing a lifestyle thing where we're struggling, because it doesn't sustain. It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable.
I'm saying this when you work every hour under the sun.
Yeah, but so do you. So it's totally relatable.
But yeah.
But yeah, I think to a degree with horses, you do get what you pay for, maybe. But people do want everything for nothing. They want favours. They want good livery service for peanuts.
Yeah, literally.
But it's not. And this is where I'm a little bit like, actually, do you know what? But then it's the same with grooms.
Yes.
I want someone to come and work for me for £10 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you wouldn't do that in an office, would you?
No.
So the whole equestrian world is just so different. Like, it is a whole different lifestyle to the normal real world.
Yeah, it
because
is.
there's so much that goes on, like within the horse world, that you never get away with in a corporate formal business.
No.
You know, I want a groom for £10 an hour. Well, that's illegal for one. But it's the same. But then that £10 an hour groom is supposed to do the job of 5 grooms and do it to a high standard. And so this is probably slightly going against what I've said about things being expensive. I'm slightly glad that livery yards are starting to charge actually what needs to be charged.
Yeah.
Because actually, why should someone pay their groom's minimum wage to try and scrape a profit from people not paying enough for livery?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
When it's actually, you know, you're asking these grooms to work 7:30 till 5. You know, that your normal job's 9 till 5.
Yeah.
7:30 till 5 with horses comes with danger.
Yeah.
It's hard graft. It's physical. Why should livery yards then pay them a minimum wage so that they can scrape a profit of someone not paying enough livery?
100%.
When you actually do sit down and work it out, £250 a week is just about covering a cost.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think it's the same, again, just because of what the business I'm in, the transport, I don't pay minimum wage. I always pay a little bit more, but obviously that has to be passed on.
Yeah.
And that's the way I run the business, but that's the way it should be, because the people that have got the money are the people that don't want to pay. So it's a funny paradox.
It is a funny paradox. And it's things like, oh, well, someone will come to me, can you have my horse on sales livery, but take all the money at the end? So they're basically not paying livery and I take all commission from the sale. Well, that's all well and good, but A, am I going to sell the horse?
Yeah.
B, is the horse going to pass the vet?
Yeah.
Would I go into Tesco's and buy a meal, go home, cook that meal, and then go, well, I'll pay you when I've eaten it?
Yeah.
You wouldn't.
No,
So
absolutely.
why is it then acceptable in the horse industry to do that?
Probably because people do it.
Yeah, but I see, I can't get, I've never done it. And
No,
I
and I
can't get
wouldn't-
my head around how someone can say, yeah, that's fine, when you don't know that horse is going to pass the vet.
No, and I
Or
don't.
you're going to get someone who's going to be able to ride it and buy it.
No, and I don't advocate that anybody ever does that. But I guess there will be people out there that are doing it.
Yeah, there is.
And
Which then makes it harder for the people that are charging their weekly livery to, you know, to get clients in.
I almost feel like if you're going to do a deal, you want it to be set up that you get your weekly livery and maybe you get less at the end, but like you taking it all at the end doesn't make sense to me at all.
No.
Especially when a horse can sell anything from
lots of things that don't make sense in the horse world.
Yes, and like you say, there's so many things out of your control. You know, it might not even be the vetting. It might jump for a fence and break a leg the day before it's told. So,
exactly.
And that's not your fault. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Brilliant. So, aside from business, let's talk about your personal journey.
Yeah.
And where you're going in the next year, 3 years, 5 years. What's your goals?
Just to survive, George. Just survive.
But you're doing
just
sort of
get
all right.
through. No, I'm really lucky that I have got a great group of owners, loyal owners that have been with me, God, six years now. So I started out freelance when I was 19. Oh my God.
Don't say you feel old.
10 years ago.
I'm old.
10 years ago, I started freelance. So I went and I was a working pupil for Andrew James. I did A-levels. I only did A-levels because my mum said that if I did A-levels, she would then fully support me with horses, because it means I've got something to fall back on. I mean, I'm not sure I could fall back on PE and psychology and photography, but I have A-levels.
Yes.
I then went and became a working pupil for Andrew James, where I learnt masses. Like masses, I still have Rachel James, Andrew's wife, her voice in my head sometimes when I'm doing things. She'll be like, why are you doing that? I do still have her voice in my head, which is funny.
Yeah.
I wasn't actually there that long because I fell off a breaker and cracked my pelvis.
Another injury to add to the list.
I literally have so many injuries. I couldn't go back. But it did set me up. It did set me up. And then, yes, I went self-employed freelance when I was 19. Originally eventing, trying to event, failing, but trying.
Well, you did all right.
No, I did all right. And I had some good horses and some good owners, and we had a good time, and it was good fun, and I learned a lot. Obviously, then the injury occurred, and I switched to dressage. But when I had this injury, I was slightly like, I'm going to lose all my horses. I'm going to have to start again, and stress. I still got the same owners, and I've got one owner whose horses I evented, and she's actually made the swap with me to dressage.
Oh wow!
She hasn't found anyone else. She's really stuck by me, and I think in the horsey world, you need people like that.
Yeah.
You need people that are going to be loyal and that are going to stick by you and help you out, and because without owners, it is an impossible sport. Unless you've got loads and loads of money and can buy your own horses and run your own horses. Also, an amazing lady called Sally, who's a fairy godmother. I call her the fairy godmother. Without her, nothing would be possible either.
Okay.
So I think, these are people that have made my journey a lot better, easier, stuck by me, given me the horses to ride. Because I think, slightly going on a tangent, but horses are hard because it's hard to get owners because owners want results. Well, most owners want results.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky that actually my group of owners just want to go for a nice time and the horses to be good and enjoy watching their horses.
Yes.
But a lot of owners want results.
Yes.
You can't get results without the horse. So you might have someone that's got extreme raw talent but no horse. So how do they prove themselves without being given a chance?
Yes.
Because again, the owners will go to the big people, the top people, because they've got the money and they want their horse to do well. Anyway, that's going on another tangent. But yes, so where do I want to go? I want to continue progressing. I am not someone that just wants to sit having a nice time. I'm always someone that wants to, move forwards. And that's actually for me one of the main reasons I swapped from eventing.
Okay.
Because like I said earlier, my confidence took a hit and I was like, I'm not sure I can do this. I don't want to do this. But I actually sat back and said, right, am I ever going to have the horse or be good enough to go to the top? And now I'd probably be happy with like a 4-star long. I'm not even talking like Burley or whatever. But I want to progress and move forwards.
Yeah.
Am I ever going to be good enough? And unfortunately, probably not. And with this setback as well, most definitely not. Which is another reason why I did make the turn to dressage, because I can't, no disrespect to happy hackers. I don't want to be a happy hacker.
No.
I want to keep going and keep moving on and progressing.
Yeah.
So this year I'd like the horses maybe to level up. If my para stuff all goes well, maybe aim for sort of some CDIs at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Internationals,
nice.
maybe be selected for GB. These are all things that at the moment are way with the fairies because obviously I haven't had like nothing's been done yet or sorted yet.
Yeah.
But as long as I keep progressing in the right direction, my horses are happy, my horses are healthy, and my horses are sound, and my owners are happy. That's all I really care about.
There you go. And again, it's another point that you've made there, which is across the board with people I speak to. It's all about the team. It's all about the people around you.
It takes an army. It takes a village. There's no I in team.
And it's these
and it
people.
is a team. It is a team thing. My mum says she doesn't do that much anymore because, she's working and whatever, but she's like the rock to, I have a good day, I have a good day, I celebrate with her. I have a bad day, I rant to her.
Yeah.
But for me, like a bad day isn't a bad result.
No.
A good day isn't a good result. A good day, it's just going out with your team and having a nice day and enjoying the horse, enjoying the day.
Yeah.
Results are great. Who doesn't love results? Who doesn't love a rosette? Who doesn't love £50 prize money when you win?
Yeah.
Doesn't even cover your entry, but who doesn't love that?
I know.
Results are a bonus. for me, like the biggest thing, as long as my owners are happy and my owners are pleased with the job that I've done, because I will always do my best. Sometimes my best isn't good enough. But yeah, for me, a good day is just everyone being happy, horse coming home safe. If we're going eventing, my rider coming home safe. I think there's been a few things that have happened in the last couple of years that have been a big eye opener. Kind of feel blessed just to have 2 broken, dodgy ankles after some of the stuff that's happened. So for me, a good day, sound horse, safe rider, everyone going home. Right.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us on the show today.
Very welcome.
Have you got a couple of words for anyone out there who is trying to get their business of freelance off the ground and they're really struggling with it?
Just don't give up. Don't give up. Chase your dreams, and dreams don't work if you don't. So, and like you will get a break. You've just got to find that right person that believes in you, and just try and make the best of what you've got.
Perfect. Thank you ever so much for joining on the show.
Pleasure.
And good luck with your onward power journey.
Thank you.